turns an all-American boy into an all-American killer.
Welcome back to Real Time for the Real Everyday Movie Fan. I am, of course, Josh Williams. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Now, if you are new to Real Time, we are a movie review channel, and we're now sponsored by KMOS. KMOS, thank you so much for hosting me here today. And we're going to be starting a new segment this summer with KMOS. We're going to be doing something called Real Time Rewind, where we will be exploring some older and somewhat newer films, probably about the 90s, somewhere here and there in the 80s, where we have a look back at some hidden gems, but also some probably famous new ones to kind of revisit and shed some light on them, and just talk about some old films that you might be able to check out this summer. Now, you see it behind me here. We're going to be talking about a good hidden gem that got brought to my attention, and we're going to be doing a real-time rewind of Target. Now, Target was released August 15th, 1968, and was directed by Peter Bogdanovich, and it stars Boris Karloff, who plays Byron Orlock, and then Tim O'Kelly, who plays Bobby Thompson. Now, this story revolves around two characters, complete opposites of each other. We have Tim O'Kelly, who plays Bobby. Bobby is a Vietnam veteran who's, coming back from the war and trying to live his life the best he can with experiencing the horrors of the Vietnam War. But you also have Boris Karloff, who plays Byron. Now, Byron, he is a veteran of the Hollywood industry. He is a horror superstar, essentially, in this world, I guess you can call it. And it follows them both side by side as you explore their lives as it comes to a clashing head at the end of the film. Now, I'm going to get into a spoiler review of it towards the end, but I'm going to do a quick little review for people who have not seen it. That way, if you have seen it, you can watch this and then watch spoiler review, and we can discuss things. But for people who have not seen it and want to check this movie out, I'll give you kind of my cliff notes and small review of it and my score, and then we'll go into some spoilers after that. You can come back, join the video, and talk spoilers with me and the rest of people who are viewing this right now in the comment section. Now, for my initial just non-spoiler review, I like this movie quite a bit. I was very surprised that before this, I had never actually heard of this film, and it was a good treat for me to actually see a film that I haven't even heard of before. And overall, I had a great time. And now, I will say the middle part was a little slow. It kind of took its time getting to where it needed to be, but I did like how there's great contrast and juxtaposition between these two characters and what they're going through as far as in the time of their lives in this moment. And I did like how it, this is kind of not really a spoiler, but it starts off with them two kind of, or at least Bobby kind of seeing Byron, because he's a celebrity in Hollywood, from across a store that he's in, and it kind of goes from there after he sees him, and they all kind of go about their way. But it did a great job of exploring both of their stories and what they happen to be going through in their time of their lives. Now, I will say there was a couple moments with Bobby's character I wish they would have explored a little bit more, as far as the reasonings for what he's doing in this film, and for like some of the traumas that he's experiencing in his life from being a Vietnam vet. I mean, you obviously know from Vietnam, if you know anything about the history, you're supposed to automatically know what's going on with him in a sense. But it would have been nice to get a little more meat on the bones of his character, of why he's doing what he's doing a little bit more, because the things he does, it's pretty horrific. I mean, there's certain moments where I kind of was shocked that the film actually went certain areas that it went, as far as some of the actions that he does. But yeah, it was very shocking. So I wish, to help drive it home more, I wish they would have explored that a little bit more. And even then, with Byron's character, he decides to retire from Hollywood, and they do give a reason why, but it wasn't satisfactory enough for me personally. But overall, besides that, I mean, these actors did a fantastic job at what they were given as far as within the script, and the director directing them with their characters. I had really no issues with them. I did like the ending. I'm not going to give anything away what happens at the ending if you haven't seen this, but the editing choices that they did was pretty masterful, because it's kind of cut at a slower pace that you would expect. It's kind of what you expect for the movies made in the 1960s. But towards the end, to help build suspense, the editing kind of picks up and intensifies with the music, and the actors kind of don't want to spoil anything more, but yeah, I love the ending. It actually had me on the edge of my seat, and which is why I'm probably going to end up giving this movie an 8.5 out of 10. If it wasn't for that ending scene and how it kind of all came to a head, I probably would have given it a little bit lower score. I still like the movie. It's still very well crafted. Certain things that I've said before, I didn't quite like. So on that note, here's your spoiler warning right here. If you have not seen this film, stop right there, go watch it, come back and join in the conversation. Now, what I did appreciate was kind of the beginning and close structurally of the film. So like I said before, Bobby, he's a Vietnam vet. He loves guns. He shoots with his father. He's in a gun store. He happens to be looking through a scope of some kind, and that kind of sets up the film. I mean, I don't know if you can see it kind of behind me here, but you know, there's a target on Byron's head. So you kind of see a target on Byron's head as he leaves a screening that he was in, and all of a sudden it stops to, you see it's Bobby who's in the scope. And I like that because at the end of the film, towards the end, the climax happens, you see Bobby looking at Byron through the drive-in theater, which was pretty interesting on how that all came about, because it happened to be by circumstance and not by actually, like, he didn't plan on seeing him at the drive-in. He was running away from the cops. Now, that was one of the things I did like structurally, how it all began with them two and ended with them two. It kind of goes that arc because they start together in a sense and then have their own paths and then come in and their paths cross once again by circumstance. One of the things I really loved, I didn't really want to talk about in the non-spoiler portion, was the themes that they explore within this film. I really love the idea of PTSD, post-traumatic stress, with a Vietnam vet. Kind of exploring it now. It is horrific what happens, but it kind of goes between that and the gun conversation that we're still having to this day. It's a very interesting way of exploring it. And then also, like at the end when I talked about, I didn't quite like Byron's reasoning for why he was retiring, because at the end he kind of says, you know, this is what I was afraid of and why I wanted to retire, essentially, which was, you know, gun violence at the theaters from his horror characters that he's played. I get that, and I do like that. I wish they would explore that a little bit more within the film. I mean, still hint to it, but you know, at the end, I did like the end scene of the end line, but I just wish they would have explored that a little bit more and hinted toward it a little bit more. But I did like the juxtaposition there between both of their characters, of both of them not really being happy in their lives. One of them has more trauma. One of them is more afraid of what his, you know, what his characters might bring to society. It's a very good conversation starters. And what I like about this is that this was back in 1968. This is stuff still talked about today, and it kind of, I like that because it just shows how much ahead of its time Targets was. I really, that's one of the things I really appreciate about this film the most. And Peter Bogdanovich did a great job of exploring these themes at such a time where they were in the conversation back then, but they weren't really big in the forefront. And now today, it's more so than ever as far as veterans, PTSD, and you know, gun violence, but also in Hollywood and stuff like that. As far as the if movies and TV shows with the violence encourages violence in society and stuff like that. I really like those conversation starters just because it helps add to the layers of the film. You know what I'm saying? Whether you agree with the themes or not, and whatever side you're on, that's not the point. It's just I like the conversations of them. Now, to kind of wrap up my thoughts about everything, that's kind of the big things I wanted to explore. I love the editing, like I said, how it kind of starts off slow. I mean, when Bobby's doing a lot of the shooting, the action kind of picks up, the cutting of the scenes picks up more to add to the intensity of the scene. But I loved the ending. The ending is probably the best part of the whole film, where by circumstance he's in the drive-in and Byron's there as well for the screening of his film to make an appearance, and he's retiring. And all of a sudden he's shooting the drive-in theater, which is very tragic, and there's some pretty hard moments to watch there, especially since there's kids in that scene. It was very hard to watch being a father, but it was just very intense. I was on the edge of my seat, and watching them come to head was pretty satisfying. Now, I did thought it was a little funny. I mean, he did hit him with his cane, but after that he smacked him around and he fell to the ground. I think that was more showing the fragileness of the character of Bobby, that he almost like he couldn't help but doing it. I don't know how to explain that. That part was a little, when that happened, I was a little, okay. But it adds the layers of what could be going in the mind of Bobby's character. So overall, I like this movie quite a bit. I'm so glad this got brought to my attention. It's probably one that I would recommend to anybody who's watching this. Definitely check this out. It's worth your time. It's not available on any streaming services right now, but you can get it on Amazon Prime. You can get it on Vudu. You can get it on any of the places where you can rent a film. And it's about $3.99 for every place. I think I got it on Amazon. I got it on YouTube for $3.99. So check this out. It's an hour and a half. It's well worth your time and explore those themes that I've said before. Well, that'll do for me today, folks. Thank you very much for watching. More importantly, what did you think of Targets if you have seen it? Leave your comments in that section below, and also like and share the video to help get this out there. Thank you very much again for KMOS for sponsoring me and giving me this platform to give these rewind reviews, kind of look at some old hidden gems of cinema, because anybody who knows me knows I love movies. I love any type of movie, so if you can throw something at me that might interest me, I'm all for it. Now, for everyone who has seen it, jump in the comments, let me know your likes, your dislikes, and your score out of 10. Of course, don't spoil anything for anybody who has not seen it. We want to save that for later on. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm Josh Williams, and thank you for keeping it real with ReelTime.